Welcome back to Friends by Film. I'm one of the hosts here, Dan Polidoro.
And I'm Tyler Pacholski. Thanks for joining us today. What do we got today, Daniel?
We're going right into the spoiler discussion of Wonder Woman 84. Graphics.
More is good. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Pedro Pascal, best thing about this movie. I personally, most of you guys who have maybe seen the non-spoiler review know, I wasn't a big fan of this film. But Pedro Pascal, I think, was the highlight of this movie, which really doesn't serve well for Wonder Woman as a character. I thought he was the most complex. He really leaned into that campiness real good, and it was just enjoyable. What are your overall thoughts? What are some things, Daniel, that come to mind for you right now regarding just Wonder Woman 84?
Yeah, first of all, as far as Pedro Pascal, I mean, he is going to be the king of memes and GIFs for the next 5 years. This movie supplies so much material for that, for the internet.
That dude is on fire. You got Din Djarin, and then you got Maxwell Lord.
Exactly. I really liked what they did with Wonder Woman. I think that she learned a couple things going, and this is, got to keep in mind too, this is before we see her in Batman versus Superman, for what it's worth on the timeline. But we see her progression. She learns more. She learns to let go in this movie. She learns to move on, move forward with her life after Steve Trevor returns, which I thought I didn't know how they were going to do it, but I thought I was cool with it. He kind of takes over this engineer's body in a way, and I kind of was like, okay, that's not him. But she only sees him. Mm-hmm. But I love Chris Pine so much, I was able to forgive, any flaw there. That I think they have great chemistry, and yeah, I'm glad they brought him back.
I think the chemistry between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot is fine. I just was like, why don't you just resurrect him? Why do you have to have this whole like different plot device of like, well, it's not actually him, he's reincarnated.
Yeah, they have really,
took me out a little bit.
The secret stone, where the witch stone, and you can wish, and you take away what essentially. So Wonder Woman wishes for Steve Trevor to return because she's lonely, which I had a little issue with that. Why would she? I don't know. And as far as the 80s, they could have set this in World War II. They could have set this in present day. It didn't matter because there was no references to the 80s.
The one thing that I was thinking about regarding the 80s context, and honestly, I thought it was very lackluster in terms of just like, yes, we did get the cosmetics, we got the costume design. That was completely fine. We got this, the styles. But man, I wanted that trailer, man, with New Orders, Blue Monday. Like I was expecting the film to kind of open up with that. I did like the Olympian aspect of Themyscira, where they're doing all the trials and stuff. That was cool. And I thought, like, okay, I'm in for this adventure. This is great. So I will give Wonder Woman 84 for setting that up. But honestly, it's just underwhelming in my opinion.
Yeah.
As far as go ahead.
As far as the 80s, I can only think of a couple things that they really did with the 80s besides, wardrobe and, just overall look of the buildings and cars, was references to older movies like Commando and Raiders of the Lost Ark. When she's holding, the whole mall scene was like Commando, when Arnold's holding somebody with one leg, up with one leg, and the wink and nod kind of cheesy 80s action flick.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is definitely setting up for my expectations for this film, which I wasn't like opposed to it. I was like, okay, maybe Patty Jenkins is leaning into paying homage to the older Superman films, the Richard Donner, Superman.
There was a little bit of that too, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's totally fine. In terms of the 80s, I also thought that they did really well with the use of like, playing into the times, the conflict, the politicalness of everything. We have, the Cold War, we have the tension. And so that's a big part of this whole movie is, making wishes and then being careful of your wishes. Just because I wish for something that there's like a butterfly effect that'll have in this way, it was said as like a detrimental effect. And so, gosh, I want, so anyway, I think that the 80s was, I can see where that came out from the 80s, the whole tension, the conflict internationally. And so I see how Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah, and the cool car chase with the tank and stuff in the
CG, man, where she's running like T-1000. It just,
really?
That kind of threw me off.
I didn't notice it in the theaters. I thought it looked great.
Okay. And maybe that's a testament to the Wi-Fi I have. I would suggest I have pretty decent Wi-Fi here, but that could have been an issue too.
I don't know if there's something different between streaming and maybe the actual print of the digital print. I don't know the production of it. I don't know.
Mhm. Well, supposedly this was actually one of the first 4K, like native 4K films to be streamed. So, what were your thoughts on Cheetah, man? We didn't really get into
Kristen
her
Wiig,
character.
Kristen Wiig was also campy, and she was a lot of fun. I thought we saw a great progression of her, ditzy outcast type museum, and it really led to her being the apex predator that she wanted to be. Would I have liked more screen time of her in actual cheetah garb? Yeah, of course. But we can't
Mhm.
go on for 4 hours. This also was a very long movie.
Oh my gosh, man!
What did you think about Kristen Wiig?
Kristen Wiig, I think she did fine. It took me out a little bit. I initially, when she's developing that character, that her baseline character of just kind of being ditzy, just kind of clumsy, it just definitely reminded me of her days back at SNL. So that kind of pulled me out of it a little bit. I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I also do agree we didn't really get a lot of Cheetah in terms of her primary form that most of us would know her by. I also thought that there were some missed opportunities. I think of like more when I say classic, I think of older comic book films. I think of one in particular, Batman Returns. There's an element of deadliness. Like almost and like for instance, the interaction between her and the guy that's harassing her. Kind of wanted her, not no offense, not to this guy, but I kind of wanted someone to die. I wanted it like there to be like some like man. I wanted to see her just kind of go off like on the edge. I felt like this movie was safe. It kind of pulled back from seeing some of that. Maxwell Lord, when he's like, granting people their wishes, and the very first investor that he talks to, honestly thought he was going to get killed or something. Like, I wanted to see some more darkness, and I
I
felt like
think,
this was, I don't know. What are
yeah,
your
yeah.
thoughts?
No, I agree with that. Nobody died. I expected people to die in this, but nobody
Yeah,
died. Even there was that one time where that guy was like, "I hope you drop dead." That was like the darkest moment.
I think that was the only death. Didn't she? Okay, so the whoever that person was, she wished that either he would go back to his people or something. So
Yeah,
there was a kind of a racist
yeah,
comment there, and so I thought he was going to kind of disappear before he could say, "I wish you were dropped dead."
yeah.
And then yeah, she just drops dead. So
That was like the only close call to death because I mean he actually retracted his wish.
yes,
I get the argument that it's a weak premise of having a wish stone, and it's very comic booky. It is. I mean, it's a comic book movie.
yeah, there's definitely you have to suspend disbelief in certain moments because when Maxwell Lord at the very end of the film is utilizing the Star Wars project technology again, primarily sourced from the '80s with Reagan in the administration. You kind of start to like think to yourself, okay, so people are expressing their wishes. What happens to those wishes from those maybe select few people that say I wish for world peace? Like what wishes trump which wishes? So
Right.
that I was like, okay, we can't really get into that. So I have to suspend disbelief and just kind of see how the events are unfolding.
Yeah, it was not going to be like a dense
Hmm.
two-sided thing, or it's just he's just a scumbag villain in the '80s.
Yeah. And surprisingly, we were pretty lean on a lot of action from Wonder Woman. I think that the middle part of the film, up until the part where they're in Cairo, in that tank chase sequence, up until then, I don't know, we probably have about an hour or more where there's just no action.
Yeah, we
Which
had
is
the mall scene, and then I love that fireworks scene. That was awesome in theaters on the screen and everything, going flying
where
through
she event
fireworks and on the 4th of July. Yeah, thought that was
yeah.
great.
I did like that piece of dialogue by Chris Pine's character, Steve Trevor, where he's talking about, leaning into the wind, being a part of it, just being in the moment,
Yeah, like
joining with it.
he kind of taught her how to fly when she finally let him go back to the
Hmm.
afterlife, essentially, and because he was like, "I'm already gone, so you don't have to say goodbye." I mean, to
For
me,
you, Daniel, in this particular film, what is a memorable scene that just stays with you?
yeah, it would definitely be the fireworks scene when they're flying in the jet, and then the goodbye scene where then Wonder Woman learns how to fly, and then I would say the end, the Christmas, which I think that was a reshoot.
Okay.
I think that ending Christmas scene, for whatever ending they had, I don't know what they had, but I think that was a reshoot because they knew they were going to release it at Christmas time. Just a theory, but I don't know.
I can definitely see that happening. I think for me, I think the memorable moments, and again, I think this attests to just Pedro Pascal, his presence. I think he's definitely an actor that we've been seeing for a while, but he's definitely someone we should we're going to see more of in the future. I did like the moments between him and his son. His son, I think, was his name. Gosh, I can't remember his son's name.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
don't
I
either.
think those moments were pretty powerful, especially where he's being called a loser in front of his son. I felt that. I was like, damn, there was some emotional weight in that scene. Aside from that, I didn't really have a lot of emotional investment. What were your thoughts on the whole issue with the kind of the gold armor and Cheetah just taking apart that just super fast?
Well, I mean, she was so powerful by that time, and she was also getting wishes from uh, Max as well. So I mean, Sheeta was, of course, she was able to rip through the armor at that moment.
And
I feel
again, we
like,
have to suspend disbelief
yeah,
because I was under the impression you only get one wish, and I was just like, hmm. So
yeah, he changed the rules as we went along. I noticed that too. That he was like, okay, well, I'm feeling very generous.
yeah.
So I thought he was having a blast, though. I could tell. And then, what'd you think about the credit scene with Lynda Carter?
Yeah, as Asteria, I think
Asteria,
that's her.
yeah, she's
The
the original Golden Warrior.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a question that someone brought up when in my viewing party. Was like, what the heck was that all about? But yeah, I thought that was fine. I think it definitely will make older fans of Wonder Woman smile.
Absolutely, yeah,
I was thinking to myself, granted the way the camera's composed, the shot, we don't see her face. I'm like, okay, it's not going to be Gal Gadot, to be somebody else. So I was kind of already primed to think in those terms. And yeah, it was cool to see Lynda Carter. I was happy for her. She looks like she's having a good time, and I thought it was a great way of honoring her and her
it
legacy as
was,
Wonder
yeah.
Woman.
I think sequels are tough overall. You don't see a lot of sequels are retreads, and I think that Patty Jenkins, took a swing here, and for better or worse, in my opinion, I think she succeeded.
Yeah. Well, hey man, I think that there's a lot that people can gather from this particular film.
Oh
Some
yeah,
people are going to enjoy it a lot more than I did, and that's completely fine. But I think there's just it's a problematic in terms of its time. Some of the storytelling, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief. Which hey, it's a movie. I get it. I'm sure there are certain comic arcs that others are aware of that are like, oh, that's kind of like. But you're right. This is like a side quest. This is definitely.
yeah.
An insight into her character. I was underwhelmed. There was some setup that I thought was just kind of let go. We did get into aspects of the stone and how it was possibly generated by some god. I thought we were going to see a possession of sorts from Maxwell Lord. Didn't get that, but that's completely fine. Again, this is probably a film I'm not going to watch again anytime soon. I think if I were ever in any position where this is the only thing we're going to be watching, I'd probably watch it again amongst other people.
Fair enough, man. I respect that.
Yeah, and
What
I
did you
wonder
guys
what my
think out there?
experience would have been like if I were to saw it in the theater. Do you think that you would have appreciated this film more or less if you saw it at home?
If I saw it at home, I think I wouldn't have liked it as much. I wouldn't have been able to enjoy Hans Zimmer's score. I wouldn't have been able to
Mm,
enjoy the high action because there's some really great set pieces in this. The beginning, and then we have the car chase thing, and then we have just her flying around, the fireworks, and then the ending, which I feel like again, Patty Jenkins kind of doesn't quite know how to end a movie of this scale. I loved Monster. I think Monster is a great film by Patty Jenkins, and then she did the first Wonder Woman, and then now Wonder Woman 84. But Wonder Woman, the first one, she had a CGI ending with CGI monster. When the first 2.5 acts were wonderful, and I'd only give like the third act the B plus. So that's kind of this ending too felt a little kind of convenient with the whole lasso sneaking in and her preaching to the camera about truth. It has a great message though. I feel like it was a very timely film, uplifting film. So I think people might need that right now too, which is a great escape right now considering we're in a pandemic. So that's kind of why I enjoyed it as well. Just getting out of the house, going to a theater, letting my mind rest and enjoying the cheese for what it is.
mm-hmm. A very optimistic film. A little bit too preachy at times. A lot of exposition heavy. But yeah, no, I totally see where you're coming from, and yeah, I appreciate that opinion and that context, man.
All right, what do you guys think about out there? Let us know. Where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Tyler_Pacholski, Pacholski. You also can find me and Daniel at our Facebook page, Friends by Film. Feel free to comment, like any of our posts, and let us know anything that you'd like for us to talk about going down the road. We've got some projects coming in the pipeline. Daniel, where can they find you?
At PoliPictures on Twitter, YouTube, and Friends by Film on Facebook. And let us know, good or bad. What did you think about this? Let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, and make sure to stay tuned. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Stay tuned. Thank you.